they're asking this question.
Yes.
Like, if I go away, do you care? One of the things I love to do at Comic-Con when Joy and I are working the booth or the table, and people are kind of like, you can see they're kind of like, they didn't like go right to a book, they're kind of like glancing, whatever. This is often the book we will grab and put in their hands and say, listen, here's the thing. You get it in their hands, and then you say, read the first page. If you turn to page 2, you have to buy it. And that actually has worked on more than one occasion. Because
yes.
my favorite one, I think I told the story a few months ago, my favorite one was somebody opened the book, they read it, they got here, and then they went, damn it. You know, they're like, so that was a lot of fun. Anyway, here we go. This is the first page of Party by Tom Levine, original copyright 2010. Page 1 of Party. This chapter is entitled Beckett. I'm the girl nobody knows until she commits suicide. Then suddenly everyone had a class with her. You know the one I mean. You don't pick on her because you don't know she's there, not really. She sits behind you in chemistry or across the room in Spanish. You've seen her naked in the locker room after physical education, contradiction in terms if ever there was one. But you don't know what color her eyes are, what her name is, what grade she's in. She's always been there, like the gum under your desk in math class, and when you do bother to explore under there with your fingers, the first thing you do upon contact is to jerk back and say, ew. And when that girl leaves, it doesn't matter. There's always one ready to take her place. That is Party. Friends and neighbors, that first line. I'm the girl who nobody knows until she commits suicide, then suddenly everyone had a class with her. I wish to God I could tell you where that line came from.
Jeez.
I have no idea, but man, it's still, like 10 years later, it just fucking lands like a ton of bricks. And I'm so proud of that line. Interesting story, Beckett originally was like chapter 5 or 6, and my agent at the time was like, wait, let's make this chapter 1. And I thought she was a complete idiot until I cut and pasted the chapter in and then reread the book from there. And as soon as I did that, I was like, oh my God, you're a genius. Absolutely. And I, honest to God, I don't think the book would have been published had I not made that change. Opening with Beckett was absolutely the right thing to do.
I mean, just hits you. I mean, between the eyes, like there is no looking away from this girl from her first sentence.
Who thinks she's invisible.
Right.
Which is fun.
Which is, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think one of the things, having talked to people about this over the years, is that she, and that line in particular, speaks to so many people, because I feel like we've all felt that way. It's a statement about, like, it's that perennial high school question. It's like, do you even know I'm here? Do you have any idea? And something I've learned after meeting so many high school students over the years, doing school visits and whatnot, is that you can't predict which kids feel that way, because you can take the valedictorian, captain of the football team, whatever traditional sort of quote unquote popular things you want, and think, well, they've got it together and they're riding on top of the world, and sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're asking this question, like, if I go away, do you care? Does it even make any impression if I'm not here anymore? Like, that's a real thing, and I get frustrated with any kid being dismissed. Of course, that's a big thing that we talk about a lot over here in Tom Levine world, for various and sundry reasons. But like, I often feel as though adults in positions of authority, whether that's parents or teachers or what have you, feel as though they can pick out who the troubled kids are, and they can look at their skin color or how they dress or where they live or the kind of car they have or don't have, or if they're on the lunch program or whatever, and say, well, that's going to be one of those problem kids. And that is such horseshit, because those are not predictors in my experience, and a lot of people fall through the cracks. So, I mean, and that's one of the things, is this is Santa Barbara. I mean, I know Santa Barbara also has homeless people, and people who are struggling. Yeah, it's a lovely climate to live in. If you're gonna be homeless, do it in Santa Barbara. But to make that immediate leap, like, well, if you live in Santa Barbara, surely you're hanging out with Oprah and whatever. Like, no, not everybody has that luxury.
Right.
And we don't know yet whether Beckett is one of those people or not. We're kind of assuming that, well, given the location, she probably is doing okay with money, and we're about to find out, no, she's really not. maybe some of the other kids are. We don't really know. It's not something that's talked about a lot, but we don't know. And that was one of the things about the story that the whole story is about, is making those judgments and suppositions and presumptions, and to the dangers of doing that, and sometimes the consequences of letting those presuppositions get the best of us. Now, the thing about this that I want you writers and storytellers to take away, however, is that normally, if you're following me, if you're part of the Patreon group, or you've been in any of my classes, or whatever, we talk a lot about those first fives, right? First 5 words, first 5 sentences, first 5 paragraphs, first 5 pages. Super important. I stand by that. I think that's very true. The reason this works, and so this is speaking now in a more sort of professional bird's eye view, is the voice. Because if you've got a solid voice that you just immediately connect to, then you can draw that stuff out a little bit. You can afford to spend some time figuring out where we are and what's going on. In this particular case, a great voice will take you a long way. And I, if I do say so myself, this is one of those occasions. But there's something about the way this particular character speaks to us as the reader. They're like, oh, I'm in and I will follow you. So she's going to, it's like we've earned a few pages more when you've got a strong voice. And then that's the difference. That's why I think we can step away from the first 5s that we talk about so much in terms of plot and all that kind of stuff.
Was there something specific that made you want to write this book?
Oh, shit.
Right?
No. The answer, Steve, is no, there wasn't. Other than, and you may have a different take on it.
I do.
Okay. The whole thing about the 11 different perspectives was more a challenge to myself. I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody's ever done that. I'm going to give it a try, which is how a lot of my stories end up getting written. It's how I wrote my first one-man show. I had never done it before. I'd seen a one-man show that blew me away, changed the direction of my life, it's fair to say. And I was like, what does that look like on paper? So I tried it to find out, and then now we have a theater company. That's how things go. The case with Party is I had several disparate stories. One of these was going to be a horror story, actually. It was going to be a horror short story. And then I had a little piece from here and a little piece here, and there are all these little just things just kind of floating around the ether. And as I was thinking about trying to draw them together, I was like, well, where would these characters end up? Like, oh, school, that makes sense. Wait. Nobody wants to read a story about school. A party, that makes perfect sense. And I started thinking about all the parties I had been to in high school. I was like, oh, yeah, what happens at parties? Fucking everything. So I was just drawing stuff together, and it was a challenge. I just wanted to see if I could construct a story, a complete novel, drawn out of these several different stories, these totally different characters, and that's what I did. I don't know what Joy's take on that is.
No, that's all true and accurate. But the first place I always go for a party is driving down the 101 on our honeymoon as you're, a scene that will be replayed numerous times in our relationship, although less so now, and that you can do notes and recordings on your phone. But this was back in the day before you could do those things. No, that's true.
I would still do that.
In which you said, Joy, get a pen and paper and write this down, and that you dictated, the first, what it would end up being, not Party's first lines, but some of the first lines that you had written that would end up
it was
being
Beckett.
Party.
It was Beckett.
Right.
Yeah.
As we're leaving Santa Barbara, which was his first time there on our honeymoon, and being struck by this, kind of unique, fun little town.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that came out. It was just a challenge. I should probably do that more, frankly, because apparently it means I can book. Do that more frequently. Anyway.
It's fun.